On March 11, 2011, Japan faced one of the deadliest natural disasters in modern history. Entire towns along the coast were swallowed by the sea. Families were torn apart in seconds, and in Ishinomaki, one of the hardest-hit cities, a schoolyard became a graveyard. To this day, residents whisper of children seen running through the ruined halls of an abandoned elementary school, laughter echoing where no one plays, and teachers calling out names long after their students are gone. This is the story of Ishinomaki Elementary School, the tragedy that claimed its children, and the hauntings that followed. At 2:46 p.m. on March 11, 2011, the ground beneath northeastern Japan shook violently. A magnitude 9.0 earthquake, the strongest ever recorded in the country. But the true devastation came not from the quake, but from the sea. Within minutes, walls of water, some reaching over 40 meters high, surged inland. The city of Ishinomaki in Miyagi Prefecture was hit harder than almost anywhere else. Nearly 3,000 residents perished. The entire neighborhoods disappeared beneath black water, and among the losses was an elementary school. Its walls meant to shelter children, now reduced to wreckage. Dozens of young lives, gone in a single afternoon. Ishinomaki Elementary stood near the coast. On that day, it became a trap. When the tsunami hit, the water rose with merciless speed. Witnesses later described hearing children's voices crying for their parents. Then silence. The official reports were grim. Multiple classrooms filled with water. Students and staff either drowned inside or were swept away trying to escape. Rescue teams would later recover small shoes and soaked textbooks buried in the mud. One volunteer, quoted in the Asahi Shimbun, described the site as frozen in time, as if the children had just been there minutes before. Weeks after the disaster, when the bodies were buried and debris cleared, another story began circulating. Locals walking past the abandoned school late at night claimed to hear faint sounds, chalk dragging across blackboards, the rhythmic thud of a jump rope slapping against the ground, children laughing, then crying. At first, it was dismissed as grief. Trauma can play cruel tricks on the mind, but the reports didn't stop. In July 2011, a shopkeeper near the ruins told the Mainichi Daily News, "I heard children playing in the yard at night. When I looked, there was no one, only the wind." Taxi drivers in Ishinomaki also came forward with unsettling accounts. Multiple drivers reported picking up passengers soaking wet children, silent and shivering, who gave their address as the destroyed elementary school. By the time they arrived, the back seat was empty. One driver admitted to keeping the meter running anyway, placing the fare at a roadside shrine for the dead. Perhaps the most chilling account came from a volunteer worker who helped clear debris at the school. His statement was recorded in year 2012 by a local paranormal research group. He described the air inside the building as damp, heavy, and unnaturally cold. Mud still coated the hallways. Children's drawings clung to the walls, warped and faded from the seawater. Then came the voices. He claimed he heard a girl call out sensei, the Japanese word for teacher. But when he turned, the corridor was empty. Later, he felt small wet handprints press against his back. When he spun around, he saw nothing, only streaks of mud across his shirt. That night, he left the building and never returned. Over the years, other stories grew. Students at neighboring schools reported seeing shadowy figures watching from the windows of the abandoned classrooms. A groundskeeper claimed to hear the sound of a piano playing in the middle of the night, though the instrument had been destroyed in the flood. Neighbors began avoiding the school grounds after dark. Some believed the spirits of the children lingered, still waiting for their parents to pick them up. Japan is no stranger to ghost stories. After great tragedies, tales of restless spirits often emerge. But in Ishinomaki, even skeptics admit the sheer number of similar reports is hard to ignore. Psychologists argue that what people experience may be a manifestation of collective trauma, survivors projecting their grief onto the spaces left behind, hearing the voices they desperately wish were still there. But others, including Buddhist monks, called to perform rituals at the school, believe the children truly remain. Lost souls, bound to the place of their deaths, unable to find peace. Today, Ishinomaki Elementary no longer operates. The building stands in ruin, a silent reminder of the disaster. Memorials have been built across the city to honor the dead. But those who live nearby insist the school is not empty. Locals still place offerings, toys, candy, and flowers at small shrines outside its gates. Some say it is the only way to keep the voices quiet at night. and for those who dare to walk past after dark, the faint sound of children playing still drifts through the broken windows. In a city scarred by unimaginable loss, Ishinomaki Elementary School has become more than just a ruin. It is a reminder that some tragedies leave behind echoes too strong to fade. The question remains, are these simply the memories of a grieving community, or are the children still there, waiting in the classrooms where their lives were cut short? Some schools carry more than history in their walls. They carry the weight of tragedy, whispers of the dead, and shadows that refuse to leave. In the small city of Pocatello, Idaho, there is one such place, a building so tied to death and the unexplained, that its reputation has spread far beyond the quiet town that surrounds it. This is the story of Pocatello High School, the haunted halls where even security cameras have captured what some believe is proof of the paranormal. Pocatello High School first opened its doors in 1901. Locals called it the castle on the hill for its towering brick walls and commanding presence above the small town. Through the decades, generations of Idaho families passed through its classrooms. It survived fires, renovations, and changing times, but the building carried with it something else. A reputation, a whisper among students that tragedy followed the school. Some claimed the very land beneath the school was cursed. Others said the building itself seemed to hold on to grief, refusing to let it fade. Over the course of its long history, at least 6 suicides have been documented inside Pocatello High School, students leaping from upper floors, others taking their lives in bathrooms and classrooms. Each tragedy left a mark, not just on the families, but on the students who remained. Many swore the building itself felt heavier after each death. One former student, quoted in the Idaho State Journal, recalled, "We were told not to talk about it, but everyone knew. You could feel it, especially walking those halls at night." Even today, some teachers avoid certain classrooms after dark. To them, it's as though the memories of those who died there never truly left. With so much tragedy, it wasn't long before whispers of hauntings began. Students reported bathroom faucets turning on by themselves, even when the pipes had been shut off. Others spoke of doors slamming with no one nearby. The most unsettling accounts came from those who stayed late for school events. Shadows were seen pacing the upper floors. Disembodied voices carried through empty corridors. Dozens of students have claimed to glimpse a young woman in a white dress, standing silently at the end of hallways or reflected in darkened classroom windows. Many believe she is one of the students who died tragically inside the school. But in 2014, one incident changed everything. Late one night, the school's motion sensors were triggered. Security cameras began recording in an empty, locked building. What the footage showed has been debated ever since. The video captured lights flickering violently down a hallway. Then, a shadowy form gliding across the floor. Moments later, a door slowly swung open on its own. Investigators reviewed the footage. Some insisted it was a glitch, a trick of faulty wiring. But others pointed out that the light, the shadow, and the door all moved in sequence, as if responding to something unseen. The story broke in the Idaho State Journal and was soon covered by television news. Paranormal investigators descended on the school, eager to study the video frame by frame. To skeptics, it was nothing but electrical malfunction. To believers, it was the first undeniable proof that the tragedies of Pocatello High had left behind restless spirits. Years have passed since that night, but the stories haven't stopped. Students whisper about cold spots in certain classrooms, or the feeling of being watched when they walk the upper levels. Teachers who've worked late describe doors rattling in their frames, only to find empty halls beyond. One janitor, speaking anonymously to a local news crew, claimed, "There are places, I just don't go alone. You hear footsteps behind you, but when you turn, there's nothing." Paranormal groups still request access, convinced that the energy of the school is tied to the suicides. And while Pocatello High School remains open, still filled with life during the day, its nights belong to something else entirely. Pocatello High School has stood for more than a century. It has seen laughter, learning, and unbearable sorrow. And if the stories are true, the halls are not empty when the students go home. Perhaps those who lost their lives inside its walls are still there, wandering the corridors. Perhaps the building itself has become a monument to tragedy, replaying its darkest moments over and over again. One thing is certain: when you walk the halls of Pocatello High School, you are never truly walking alone. There are schools that carry more than just history within their walls. Some carry echoes, whispers, shadows that refuse to fade. In Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, one of the nation's most prestigious schools, stands as both a landmark and a warning. The Victoria Institution, founded in 1893, it has produced politicians, scholars, and leaders. But among its students, there is one story that has never made it into the school's official record. They say a boy died here, alone, terrified, during a cruel hazing ritual, and ever since, his restless spirit has wandered the science block. The Victoria Institution, often called simply VI, is one of the oldest and most respected secondary schools in Malaysia. Built during the British colonial era, its architecture reflects both Western design and local adaptations. During World War II, when Japan occupied Malaya, the school was seized and used as a military base. Some records suggest it also served as a holding site for prisoners, though official archives remain vague. Many students believe this history left a permanent mark on the grounds. Yet, what haunts Victoria Institution the most is not the war. It is the memory of one particular student. Sometime in the mid-20th century, whispers began circulating among the boys. The story told of a younger student, just a teenager, subjected to a late-night hazing ritual. Accounts vary. Some say he was locked inside one of the upper science classrooms as punishment. Others claim he was forced to climb a narrow ledge outside the chemistry lab windows, where he lost his footing. What remains consistent is this: the boy never made it out alive. His body was discovered the next morning. The death, according to former students, was quietly kept out of newspapers. The school's reputation was too valuable to be tainted. But among the students, the story spread like wildfire. Each new generation inherited the tale, passing it down like a forbidden secret. Since that time, countless reports have surfaced from students and faculty alike. Late at night, footsteps echo in a science block long after it has been locked. Teachers have entered empty rooms only to hear chairs scraping across the floor, as if someone unseen was moving them. One former student described walking through the corridor and noticing a boy sitting at a desk inside the chemistry lab. Thinking it was another classmate, he waved only for the figure to vanish before his eyes. Others have claimed to see a pale figure staring from the lab's upper windows at night. Always the same window, always the same floor. By the late 20th century, the boy in the science block had become a kind of challenge. Seniors dared juniors to spend a night inside the haunted section of the school. Few lasted longer than an hour. One student recalled hearing faint crying in the dark, echoing through the walls, even though he was completely alone. Another swore he felt the temperature drop so drastically that his breath came out in mist, despite Malaysia's tropical heat. Some dared to push further, leaving offerings, calling out to the spirit. Those who tried often left in silence, pale and shaken, never speaking of what they saw. Whispers say the boy does not take kindly to being mocked. The most enduring story comes from a student in the 1980s, tasked with retrieving his books from the lab after evening prep. He climbed the stairs alone. As he entered the corridor, he noticed movement in the corner of his eye. At the far end of the hall stood a boy in an old-style school uniform. His head was tilted down, his face obscured by the dim light. The student called out, but the boy did not answer. Instead, he turned slowly and walked into the chemistry lab. The witness followed, pushing the door open. The room was empty, every chair neatly tucked in, every table spotless. No open windows, no sign of anyone leaving. And yet, faintly, he swore he heard the sound of dripping water echoing through the room. Over time, the legend of the boy in the science block grew inseparable from Victoria Institution's identity. Paranormal investigators in Malaysia have referenced the story, and local newspapers have occasionally mentioned the school's reputation for hauntings. Today, alumni reunions often feature whispered retellings of the ghost story. Current students still report eerie encounters, and despite renovations, the science block has never shaken its sinister reputation. Some believe the boy was never given a proper farewell. Others say he is bound to the school forever, his final moments replaying endlessly in the place where he died. In Malaysia, Victoria Institution is known for its academics, its history, and its legacy. But in the quiet hours, when the lights dim and the halls grow silent, another legacy reveals itself. The ghost of a boy who should have simply been another student, another life among thousands. Instead, he has become something else, a reminder, a warning. Some schools teach lessons through books. Victoria Institution teaches through fear.